Thank you. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're watching from. My name is Tishaura Jones, and I'm a former member of this august body. I'm also the current treasurer of the city of St. Louis and a staunch advocate for a woman's right to choose. While I was in the legislature, we debated many bills on abortion and further restricting rights for women as they make a difficult choice. And I've always felt like those who introduce abortion bills have this sort of schizophrenic dance with government, because usually they are from a different party. They are Republican, and I thought, as far as I knew, that the Republican stance on government intrusion in private life was the least amount of intrusion in private life. However, when it comes to a woman and her body and her right to choose, then all of a sudden it's an issue. And they claim that, well, we're just protecting the baby, we're protecting human life, we're protecting that child. But are you really protecting the child when you introduce so many restrictive bills and there's no safety net for that child after it's born? The woman gets discriminated against for a number of reasons. There's no pay equity. She's discriminated against because of her gender. There's no safety net. Missouri has an expanded Medicaid for over 300,000 citizens and has an expanded the Affordable Care Act. Federally qualified health centers that usually take care of these children, their funding is dwindling year by year. That woman has a mental health problem. We have no mental health spending in the state of Missouri, and our mental health facilities are in desperate need of funding. In any issue that's related to that child, it seems that our government isn't doing a good job at funding them. And I really just think it's a crock when we have to come up here in the cold and rain, even though it's the middle of May, to protest day in and day out about someone infringing upon my right as a woman to have the freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. So things like that just really tick me off. And that's why when I was asked, I made time in my schedule and drove all the way from St. Louis, and I didn't have to be here. But this is important to me. This is important to generations that come after me. This is important to my family. I have a current situation right now where I have a cousin who's pregnant, and she thought about getting an abortion, and she decided not to. But even if she did, that's her choice. And who are we to infringe upon her rights to do whatever she wants to do? I mean, in some instances, we're allowed to have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but not women, and not women who are getting an abortion. And it's a double standard. And women continue to live in a society where there's a double standard applied to anything that we do. And this 72-hour wait period, number one, I think Senator Sifton said in his remarks the other night when he was filibustering that it's really unconstitutional. And all we can hope for at this point is that the governor vetoes it and sees it for what it is. So that's all I really have to say about that. And I may think of some other things, but I committed to being here for at least a half hour. And I'm going to honor my commitment in 4-inch heels, by the way. But I'm committed to doing whatever I can to fight for women who don't have the opportunity to come here and fight for themselves. So I'm reading from the book Motherhood and Bondage. 17. I married when I was 18 years of age and was ignorant of life and the mysteries it holds. In about 8 months after my marriage, a 7-month baby came, and it lived only about 6 weeks. In a year to a day, another baby came, which I also had to give up at 5 or 6 weeks. I've always loved babies, and I look forward joyously to the coming of each of them, and my heart was almost broken when both were taken away. I felt I would rather die than to suffer to bring them into the world and give them up so soon. In about 11 months, a little girl was born, and she is the idol of our hearts. Then in about a year, there was another that lived only a few hours. Still another came and lived only a few minutes. There are 4 little graves in our churchyard. Next came a miscarriage, and the next year I became pregnant again. The physician told me I could never carry one the full 9 months, but by taking treatments and using an invalid's chair, I gave birth to a boy who is 18 months old now. My life is wrecked by all this, and my health almost ruined. During the period of pregnancy, I'm unable to do any work, and as we are only poor farmers, it is almost impossible to get work done. I don't want more children at the price I have to pay. I love my babies, but I don't want more of my health is so impaired that I can't be a real mother. I've asked doctors advice, but they only think I'm foolish. 18. I'm the mother of 4 children, only one living, and he is poor and sickly. My last baby lived to be 6 months and 22 days old and died with a stomach trouble. She suffered 4 weeks before she died. All of my babies have been taken by the doctors, and I nearly die every time. I am broken down and nervous and not able to give birth to children, and only 23 years old. I was poor and I didn't have any education. My husband is a poor man, only makes $2 a day, and you know we're not able to care for one child, much less a large family. I married when I was 15, and my baby was born 11 months after I was married. I've done my part of suffering in this world. I never know nothing when my babies are born and lose them after all my suffering. I realize you're a friend of humanity and want you to tell me what to do to prevent having any more, as I would rather die than bring babies into the world to suffer and die. Will you please help me be free from suffering? I nearly lose my mind worrying and wondering what to do. Is there any answer for women like me? 19. I was married in June 1913, and then the next year in July, I had a girl that lived 2 months and 17 days. And the next year in January, I had a boy who lived 8 months and 4 days. And the next year in January, I had a girl. She is now 7 years old, a lovely girl going to school every day. 18 months from that time, I had another girl which lived 2 months and 17 days. In 1920, I had a boy who lived 5 months and 1 day. And in the next year, I had a girl which died an hour after it was born. In 1923, I had a boy in June, and he died on the 17th of November. And in January, I had a miscarriage of 3 months. So you see why we have had pretty hard luck, but a lot of expense. It leaves me nothing but a wreck. A friend of mine gave me your address and told my husband to write to you, for he was tired of seeing them come and go all the time. 20. What I want to know is how to keep from getting in the family way. I've been the mother of 7 children. I have 3 living and 4 dead. The youngest one was born dead just 1 month ago. I always think I could never live to birth another, and I surely wanted to die this time. I was sick 5 weeks before I got down. I could not rest when I would lie down. I would almost lose my breath. I could not rest up or down, and when I got sick, sure enough, I was sick 31 hours and had 2 doctors with me, and they say I will never stand such a thing again. So I wish you to tell me what I must do to keep that off. We're very poor, and I have to work so hard to help my husband make a living. We've had so much sickness and so many doctor bills to pay. It takes all we can do to live. I am now only 28 years old. I've been married 12 years. I was married when I was only 16. That was entirely too young, but I didn't know it at the time. But I love my husband and my children and all of God's people. I try to help everybody in every way I can, so now please won't you help me? I haven't gained my strength yet like I should, so if you would help me, I surely will help you. I was asked some time ago to write you for some information as you could give it. I've been married 10 years, 6 months, and had the misfortune to lose 8 and sometimes 2 in 1 year. I can go all right up until between the 3rd and 4th month, and that's when the trouble begins. I have one little girl, 5 years old. I have 2 children. The oldest is 5, the other 2. I've been married 9 years. When the first was born, I had convulsions. It died at birth. Just a year, there was another one. It was dead a week before it was born. Just 13 months, there was another one. He is living but sick all the time until he was 3 years old. In 18 months, another one. It died before it was born. Then a 4-month miscarriage. Just a year till another one came. He is still living. I had a miscarriage last October. The children were all boys, but the last one. We're poor. We haven't a roof over of our own. My husband has to work day by day for a living and hasn't a steady job. Don't believe me. Don't believe I can stand it anymore. Please help so I can raise my children. I live in a small mining town. Even in this small town, there are many families. It is a tragedy to see. Many who would be glad not to have any more children for a few years, as they have 3 and 4 so small they can't take proper care of them. All are poor people. I married in April 1921 at the age of 17. In April 1922, I had an 8-pound boy born to me. All this was in labor 38 hours. This was in labor was in 38 hours and had to be put to sleep in the child's apron. It was not developed right inside. The doctor didn't think it would have any mind or ever walk till it died 24 hours after birth, all due to misconception. In May 1923, I had an 8-pound girl who was never well and had to be weaned young because my milk isn't good. 1924, I had 3.5 months miscarriage and now 4 months pregnant again. I am so uneasy, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid it would be like my first one. I feel sometimes as if I would rather die than suffer again as I did then. So please help me, as I don't want any more children after a while after this one, and I will always be your grateful friend. I thought I would drop you a few lines to find a real friend that would help me of my distress. I'm a woman at the age of 34 at the present, and I've had 12 children up to the present time. I had a child just 2 weeks ago, and it was born dead inside of 10 years. I have had 6 children, and none of them was born alive. I've had my 3 children that are all living, but the rest of them are all dead. When they do come, they're all born dead. I sometimes feel like committing suicide if it were not for the children I have. Double slavery. I'm a married woman, have 1 boy 5 years old. My husband is a cripple and sits in a wheelchair and will have to as long as he lives. I have to lift him into bed at night and again in the morning. I have to lift him into his chair. He weighs 180 pounds, so you see I have my share of hard work together with my housework and making a living. We're poor. Only have what we make, but that's not very much. I'm afraid I might become a mother again if I don't get some good, simple, safe, reliable way to prevent it. What should we do in this condition? I couldn't lift my husband, and there's no one that we can hire to do it because we haven't the money. Won't you please give me the information I need? I have often heard people speak of you, and also of the good you do for people who are overburdened with children, and have been wondering if you could help me. I'm a woman with 7 children and the 8th one coming. My husband is crippled with rheumatism, so I have to earn a living for them, and I have to earn it by working beets in the summer and taking washings in the winter, and that's the only work there is to get here. My oldest child is 11 years old, so I can't get much help from him, and you know as well as I do, it's hard to make a living for such a family. I'm the mother of 4 babies and have to go out and work for my living. My husband has been sick about 18 months and isn't able to work, so I go and do people's washing in the evening, and I do my own. Every night I come and I sit and cry many times. I wish I was dead. And sometimes I get home and can't hardly stand on my feet. I was married when I was 17 and 4 months. After 9 months married, I had a miscarriage 8 months. After 14 months, I had a baby boy, and he is living, and he's now 7 years old. After 3 years, I had another boy. He was born with consumption in the bones and would shake his head one side and another. And the doctors don't know what that was. Now I have them nervous spells myself. Ill through my marriage life. I've been working in factories. I took my children to day nursery. 2 months before the birth of my last child, my husband deserted me with my children. He had left home 11 times before, but always came back. But that night, his mother gave him money to go out of town. I was then married 5 years to him. After 4 years, I could not get no trace of him. I got the divorce. I had to work hard to keep my furniture and pay the rent, as I did not want to go to boarding. Now, as I was 26, and I had no one to depend on, I married again. He's a good young man of 25, and he's not a lazy gambler like the others. But even with that, I fear having any more children, as they will not be healthy. We were married a few months ago, and neither of us had any money, and he's only a laborer and makes $25 a week. So you see, I've struggled with the first husband, and I wish I will not have to struggle with this one. So please, if you can help me. Please tell me what to do to keep from having any more babies. I'm only 26 years old and the mother of 5 children, and the oldest 8 years, the others 6, 4, and 2. And I have 4 living. The last time I had a 6-month miscarriage, and I've been weak ever since. It happened this past August. My husband is gone to try to find work, and I have to support my children myself. I have to work so hard until I feel like it would kill me to give birth to another. I'm nervous. My back and my side give me a lot of trouble. I'm not able to give my children the attention that I desire. I take in washing to support my children. I suffered this last time from the time that I got that way until I lost it, and I am yet weak in my back. Please, for my sake, tell me what I can do to keep from having another. I don't want another child. 5 is enough for me. I work in a cotton mill, and I have 3 children, and I feel as though I don't want to bring any more into this world under the conditions. I always have the right to go back to work after childbirth and leave my children for someone else to care for. I don't care to bear any more children for the man I got. He's most of the time drunk and not working and gone for days and nights and leaves me alone most of the time. I'm sewing for support for me and my baby that's 2 years old and 1 dead born, so I know you don't blame me for not wanting any more children. And he is always talking about leaving me. He might as well for what he's doing, but I'm worried that I may get in wrong. I'm 38 years old. I have a family of 6 living children. Also lost 2 in infancy. Our baby is now just past 2 years. Our lives and home is happy. Husband does everything to avoid more family, but there's always fear and nothing sure except what is injurious to him. I am not one that would die before I would have more babies, but we are not able to raise any more family. I have to work hard every day to keep the family going. Husband has not been able to work now for 18 months. He has back trouble. He's doctored all the time, but it gets no better. He does little about the house and takes care of the baby. He can be on his feet only a short time, and the doctor don't give him much encouragement of being any better. I'm 45 years old, have a blind husband, and 1 daughter of 9. And as I have earned a living for nearly 15 years with constant mental distress as to my physical condition, I feel I must have something to prevent further trouble if it's possible. I've nearly died at childbirth several times and always being badly torn from use of instruments in every case, and then not always saving my babes. So I'm too old now to take any further chance. So I hope you'll be willing to send me the desired information. Here, I must come to you in a very distressing time. Please, dear one, hear my plea and help me. I'm going to tell you my condition. We have 9 children. I'm the stepmother of 3 who I do for as I do my own. I'm the mother of 6, my oldest one being only 12 years. No, 2 only 10 years, number 2 only 10 years, number 3 are twins, only 8 years, number 4 twins again only 4 years, where I have come very near to dying when they were born. For 3 months was in bed. We are very poor. My husband has been in poor health for over a year. He has not been able to work regular at all. We have nothing, only what he can make. I've been forced to leave my home and babies to go try to find work and help clothe and send the children to school. I'm very much afraid of becoming pregnant. Oh me, I don't know what we will do if I do. I am 39 years old. While at a neighbor's house working, saw one of your books and read it, and seeing that there are others think as I do makes me feel we can have friends instead of being sneered by all, as so many of us poor, hard-working women are, because we have to work for a mere existence. I want to tell you I have 6 children and have always had poor health, so you might guess how I felt before bringing each one into the world while we were poor and nothing to support these children as they should be. We finally took up homestead 75 miles from town thinking we might prosper, but every time a little one came, it pressed us harder. Then, as there was no school and the children being brought up like animals, I decided to bring them to town to work to support them, as he does not and could not support them alone. I find my health is breaking and fear I can't stand this strain much longer. I dread thinking of my husband coming to me for fear of more children coming to press us harder, as we're sorely pressed now. God only knows how thankful I would feel if you would only help me by telling me how to prevent childbirth. Hope your good work goes on, and I think it is the only sure road to upbuilding of our country and race. I am 34, and I've had 7 children, 6 of them living, but I've never been what one would call healthy, and I was hoping I would find out some way to keep from having any more. We can hardly make a living. I hired my little ones keeping last winter, and the rest went to school as I worked in a brass factory. It was awful hard on me, but we couldn't make a living without. I'm not working now, but I guess I will have to again as the children are getting out of clothes and we're getting behind. My husband is terribly mean whenever I get that way. The day I was sick for my last baby, he went away and left me alone, and he was so mad to think I had to have it. I sent my little boy after my mother so I wouldn't have to be alone. I know I hadn't ought to live with a man that way, but what can a woman do with a lot of little ones who hates to part with any of them? So I'm hoping and praying I can find out a way to keep from it. My youngest is 3 years old and just getting, so he isn't much to care for, but enough at that. But one loves them just the same, and he's an awful loving child, thinks there's no one like his mother. I'm a mother of 7 children, my oldest 13, youngest 17 months, and I have had a hard life of it. My husband ain't a very good worker, and we have such a hard time to get along. I work some, but I have a bad heart. I can't stand to work too hard, and as soon as I wean my babies, I get in the family way right away, and from the time I feel like I can't do nothing. I suffer so bad with one side, I just pray to die and suffer so much at the time my baby is born. I don't want no more. Please help me. My baby is so cross, cries all the time for me, 3 of them, that sometimes I think I will go crazy. Then I do washing and ironing besides my own housework, so I would die before I would want another baby for the way I suffer to have them and the way I have to live. I'm just a nervous wreck. My husband goes out with a bunch to drink, and I worry so much until the next day that I am sick, for he is so mean when drinking. Oh, I hope he will be so good and kind and help me. I'm just a poor, broken down mother. It's a shame if I bring more babies into this world to live like we must live. I do think it's a sin to have them and can't bring the darlings upright. I've been married 11 years and have 5 children, the oldest 9 years, the baby 8 months old. I weigh about 90 pounds, do all my housework, care for the children, and go to the field. I've also taught school 3 years since my marriage. I had to do this on account of my husband being ill health. Last fall he had to undergo a very serious operation which left us heavily in debt and him unable to work. And in justice to the children, I have an injustice to the children I have. I do not want to have any more children for a few years, but I know of no way to keep from it, so I come to you for help. I will greatly appreciate any help you will send me, as I cannot do my work now without neglecting my children. I cannot instruct and care for them properly. I cannot even bathe and feed them as often as they should be. I'm a dressmaker, and I married a clerk 7 years ago. He drinks some, and I've been sickly all my life through. The doctor told us to be more careful, as I have a sore on my left lung, but in a few months I will again be a mother. I am dreadfully sick throughout the entire confinement, but I still have to work or we will not have enough bread to eat. Even as hard as I work, I have to neglect my children and my housework because it takes so much money to keep the wolf from the door. It's terrible to think of bringing these poor little babies into the world without means or care or strength to care for them. I am weaker every time I have a baby, and everyone I have, I think it would be the last. It would be best too, as I have nothing to invite them to. I have 3 children. Thank you. All fairly healthy, except they are nervous. But then how can they help that when their mother and father are nervous? All I can think from overwork. My husband is at his workbench at 6 a.m. until 5:45 p.m. Then we do extra work in the evening until 10 p.m. It's poor pay, but every little bit helps. I do all my own housework, including the washing and ironing and sewing, and a little extra. Is it any wonder we are nervous? And the worst of it is that we are not holding out. We want to try to give our children a fair chance, which I think every child should have. I expect to go to the shop when my children are a little older to help out, if we don't have any more, and right here is where you can help me, if you will.
Hello, Ms. Orion, I have an inquiry.
Yes, I'll accept your inquiry.
Thank you.
Huh?
I was going to take
an inquiry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. An inquiry is going to you're going to ask me a question.
Can I take over?
Sure.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sophie.